Hello everyone, it's Juan Ricardo,
Hugh Martin,
and Ed Miller
of the band Sunless Sky. We want to start this interview first off by thanking all our fans and especially the people there at Antichrist magazine for doing this interview with us. And we want to give a special shout out to our fans in the Ukraine who are suffering during this terrible war, and know that we are thinking about you and that we support you and all of our fans worldwide. I guess we should start this interview really quick with a brief summary of the history of Sunless Sky. We are all, at one point or another, had been in the band Dark Arena. And when I was in Dark Arena in 2012, we had been doing several albums and took years and years to do each studio record, and I was looking to make a live band. And a band opened up for us called Erect Ejector. They had this old school sound, and I asked them if they wanted to do a side project. They agreed, and in 2012, that band became my band, Sunless Sky. We did like 100 shows. I got signed to Pure Steel Records out of Germany, and recorded our first album, Fire Breather, that was released in 2014. Did about another 100 shows, and those were all like basically guys that, that weren't looking to do as much work as I wanted to do, and they wanted to go back to their lives. And so I reformed the band around guitar player Curran Murphy from Annihilator, and the whole new band. And in 2017, we released Doppelgang. We did several tours, another few hundred shows, and that band wanted to go on to do some other projects. And so then that came about that time, about reforming the band. And so then I reached out to my Dark Arena brothers, Ed Miller, that I knew from the 90s, all the way back when I was in Mystic, when he was in Mystic and I was in Ritual, and Yul Tyler Martin, who was the drummer from Dark Arena, and together we became the new Sunless Sky, and we've just completed our new album, Prelude to Madness. So, I guess it comes the idea right now of let Ed tell a little bit of his past leading up to Sunless Sky real quick.
I've known this guy for a long time. 88 was when I first met him. I was in a band called Mystic, and he was in a band called Torment at the time, which actually later on
became Ritual,
right? And I've always looked up to him as a musician and a singer. He was always, pretty established dude in the Cleveland metal scene. And a long time went by where I lost contact with him. This was all pre-internet, so it was kind of harder to find people back then, and I dropped out of the music scene for a very long time too. And I just got back in. I always wrote and recorded, the whole time. It was like 17 years. I didn't do any shows or any, like band stuff, just studio stuff. And in 2016, I wanted to go back to Europe again, because the last time I was there was in '92. And so I joined a few different bands until eventually I ended up hooking back up with this guy. We were in Dark Arena for a minute there together.
Right.
For a very, very short amount of time.
He had wanted to come back, and he had joined a band that I signed called Sleep Lord, because I'm an AR rep for Pure Steel Records, and that kind of like, I saw him play when I, reminded me of what a great guitar player he was. And then from that band, he went on to Hell and Back, another band that I helped sign to Pure Steel.
It was Hell and Back first, actually.
Yeah, Hell and Back, and then Sleep Lord, and it was just like I said, wow, what an incredible guitar player. Always knew him as a great friend and stuff like that. And then a couple years ago, when I was looking to form a new Sunless Sky.
I called him about a distribution deal to release this album as an instrumental album originally.
Right. He had had this music for a long time, the basic melodies and guitar parts for a while, and had demos of these recordings. And he asked me about the distribution deal as a solo project, and I said, that's interesting, but would you consider actually working with me and making a new album together? And he agreed, and here we are.
Well, I think I've named one since probably like mid-2015 or 16, and I had met our now deceased friend, Tall Paul, who was a former guitarist at Dark Arena, and it had been a while since him and Juan had performed together. Me and him had been rekindling some of his old songs and was going to come out with a project, and then he had talked to Juan about making it potential new Sunless Sky material, so that's how we got reformed. Not too long after that was when Paul had passed away.
Yeah, Paul passed away, right?
We were looking for somebody else. His buddy Alan Marcus helped us out for a little while from Nuclear Blast Records and played a couple shows with us.
He's another person who's in Dark Arena.
And then, after that, we got Ed and started making these new songs. And I've been playing with you since like 2017, and then it's 2022 now, so we're doing that. And I had played with some people previously that never really gone too far or anything. Celestial Autonomy was one of the bands, and I've always played and everything, but being on Pure Steel's definitely gave me the opportunity to get around and play more shows and everything, so that's my backstory with the band.
And the thing that was interesting too, and how all this sort of worked together, we are sitting in Yule's studio. This is Martin's studio where the album was recorded. And one of these things, there's synchronicity to things sometimes. Not only was Martin doing all these things, he was doing a lot of his own recordings and working on things. And so when we went to record the album, we were looking to who would produce the album. It turned out that he was already a very skilled producer from doing other bands and other recordings. And when we started recording together, it was just the three of us in the studio working together, and we didn't have to go to outside sources. And we just had this, like I said, the synchronicity together. So it worked really, really well musically, and friendship-wise, all the shows, the three of us. I originally, like I said, Sunless Sky had started as a 5-piece, became a 4-piece, and then right before the festival, it was in tribute for Tall Paul of Dark Arena dying. Sunless Sky was supposed to perform. The bass player couldn't perform. And as I said, what was literally were the headliner one of the days of this metal festival, the Metal Fest, Pure Steel Metal Fest, I'm not going to cancel our performance. I'll just play bass because I've always sort of played. I used the bass as a writing instrument. And I performed, and everybody was just like, wow, that was great. And I said, well, there you go. We'll just stay as a 3-piece, and here we are. I guess the next question is where the name Sunless Sky, this dark name, came from. The very first song that Sunless Sky ever wrote and ever recorded was the song Sub-Zero. You can go look on the videos of the song Sub-Zero on YouTube, and in the very first paragraph verse of the song is the name Sunless Sky is used, and we just thought what a great idea, and we just went with that name. I know it's kind of simple, but that's basically how that worked out. Now, the next thing we want to talk about is, of course, the recording as it's began right now of the album that you're hearing behind us, our new album, Prelude to Madness. We're so excited. It's such a great change in sound. We definitely went heavier from the previous albums. And like I said, it really started with Ed and his music. He had when he first approached me with this album, I right away was just enthralled, just how his melodies and his different style, his guitar playing. And he'd had this music for a while, right, Ed?
A very long time, yeah, since some of them date back to as far as like 93, you know. This album has actually been like a very, very long time in the making, you know.
For you, right?
Yeah,
right.
for me, yeah. This was actually, for me, was supposed to be released like in the early 90s, you know, probably like 94, 95. You know?
Musically,
Musically,
the
yeah.
band, all the songs were rearrangements and parts from different use, but the basic nexus and the actual parts themselves go back. Some of them go back 25 years to your band, Darkseed.
Darkseed,
right?
yeah.
So it was really great, and the thing that was really good about Ed is I basically told him, hey, listen, I love the songs, but I don't want can I take all these different songs and make different arrangements and use different melodies and bass parts and drum parts? Are you like cool with that? And he was just like, yeah, let's make a completely new, like it's imagining taking something that was already created and making an entirely new creation from them.
And I've always loved playing with as many different people as I can.
Right.
You know, and me and you had never been in a band together.
That we always wanted to be.
Right,
Imagine knowing someone and being fans of each other for 30 years and never being in a band together. So it's really great. And so then the actual recording of the album fell to Buell. And so then we basically started, with the drums.
And we reworked all the songs into the form that Juan had. Somehow he listened to all these songs and just knew which parts he wanted to be, the chorus and
I have
everything.
a weird way to do it. My mind
crazy.
works that way. Yeah.
Got Pro Tools in his brain.
We worked out all that, and then I did all the drums, so everything would be on time for them to do the rest of the recordings, and then the next 4 or 5 months or something.
4 or 5 months started with
everything out on some of the weekends.
Layering
and
all
things.
his guitar tracks, he has so many different ideas, and that was what made it really different. Is that he loves to layer, and even layering solo parts, and then my bass parts went on, and then last but not least, my vocal parts went on, and I really, really wanted it to be just over the top and just powerful, but not.
It worked because that's the same route I took with my guitar.
Right, but not like
Over the
overly,
top,
crazy layering, just that really over the top of the vocals, and then the mixing occurred, and then we used our great friend for the mixing and mastering, Robert Magna of Austria, who worked with a lot of great bands, and we just over weeks and times got the sound, and we just love the sound of the album. It's big, it's heavy, everything's just, we just had that guitar sound, just, drum sound, everything that we really had wished for and wanted to, we achieved on this album. And we're just really, really, really psyched about it.
Yeah, we were able to work hand in hand with him, going back and forth on everything, and it made everything real easy. And
I was worried about it actually because I had never done that before.
Where the person wasn't in the same room.
Right.
He was there. We went back and forth. I've done it a lot. I recorded an album not too long ago with the German band Blind Cross where we never even spoke. We literally just did everything by different moves back and forth.
He did a great job.
He did an amazing job.
He did a great job. I mean, we didn't even have to talk about, kind of like what direction or what we were actually wanting. It was just like he was on it.
Right. As soon as he said it. Right. Well, then we got to the part of the lyrics, and I guess that's my part, and a lot, lyrically, this album has a lot of, personal things to me. It was basically written during COVID, and there was a lot of, civic unrest, not only just in America, but all around the world, where people were frustrated and just, looking for these escapes. And I really were looking for that to somehow tap into that civic unrest that energy that was driving people to the street, at the same time giving people that escape that they were looking for. And somehow I tried to, have that in the lyrics. And of course I love to write songs about stories and about, grand themes, and there's, things I loved about, so the Prelude of Madness, where it's, the title track, which is we're always one step between a war that would end everything. And so the same thing of, Sherman Tank, about my love of military things, and, like you're hearing behind us, and Mastodon, about, I love science, I love, science fiction, I love paranormal stuff, and, like Into the Gray, and, that sort of stuff always enthralled me, enticed me, and I hope I was able to capture that energy that was going on at the time, and give people that escape that they're looking for. So which leads us to the cover.
I take a lot of pictures. I go to a lot of old cemeteries.
Let me tell you something. When I said we take a lot of pictures, let me just say, when we went to a festival in Texas not that long ago, we kept having to turn around because we kept having to find Ed, because he's constantly taking pictures. I think he took 1,500 pictures.
There's a lot,
yeah. But go on. He takes a lot of pictures.
Yeah.
Is understatement.
Yeah, and I go to a lot of abandoned houses, abandoned places, mostly old cemeteries and stuff, and one of my favorite cemeteries to go to is this place called Lakeview. It's in Cleveland. It's the most beautiful cemetery we have in Cleveland, and there's this statue there. It's the Hazerock family plot is what it is, and I've taken many pictures of this statue, but I've only actually edited just a couple of them or whatever. And one time I went there to do a photo shoot with my guitar and stuff, and I passed by it and I was like, hey, I'm gonna see how this will look. And I put the guitar in, because it's sitting there with this cane or something, and I replaced the guitar there, and it was just a really cool picture. I've always liked it and stuff, and I thought it would be a perfect cover.
And the thing that's especially interesting about that, and that cemetery is iconic for the Cleveland area, and that statue is iconic for the Cleveland area, and so for us to represent not just that look, but Cleveland, that this is a Cleveland metal band, this is an iconic picture, an iconic statue as used on cover. And in the entire booklet, everything, all the pictures are Ed's from scenes of that graveyard.
Well, or just different graveyards too.
Right.
There's a couple of abandoned houses in there and stuff. But I got those.
Yeah. So that's all Ed's pictures, and so we just kept that whole theme for the whole thing.
That's why I really like how this album went down, because like I said, I've had these songs for so long. You know what I mean? And then to have it distributed on a label again, and I wanted to represent Cleveland a lot, like you had said that, the cover of that statue, it's a very iconic Cleveland thing, and I think that the album came out very well. I mean, it represents, not only what we do, but just Cleveland in general.
Exactly. We move on real quick to About Pure Steel. I'm an A&R rep for the label, and I don't want to be really biased about it, but they have been extremely great for us. And it started all the way back in 2012 when I was looking for a label for Sunless Sky. It all began with Sunless Sky. It basically, we're looking for a label, and as things would have it, the president and owner of the label, Andreas, hello to you, and all the Pure Steel family there up there in Germany, he turned out to be a fan of mine back in the 90s from the band Ritual. And so when he heard I was looking for a record label, he was so gracious and great, and said he actually sent me a picture of him holding my album said, so I basically got the idea, well, I think I'm going to sign with this guy. Look how great, how awesome is that? And it just went from there. He signed the band, and they've been, you know, it's really, they try to be like they really like a family atmosphere there, and they've treated us so well. And so eventually, almost all the bands that I sing for have signed with Pure Steel now, and including Tall Paul right before he died. And he was always so, I said, suspicious of record labels. And Dark Arena was together for years, like 20 years, without a record label, struggling to release their music because he didn't trust record labels. And that finally, after seeing how well they treated me, he signed, and so Dark Arenas, all that, and unfortunately that was right before he passed. So that's been like that, and I guess that goes to the next part about, you know, what's great about being on the label comparatively. I mean, I can just speak simply, you know, financially, using Dark Arena as an example. We struggled to record, manufacture, distribute, and promote our music. It's difficult. I mean, there's a lot of amazing music out there, and a lot of amazing bands. And being on a record label is, I mean, we record our own music, but, you know, they basically take care of the manufacturing, distributing, and the promotion of the album. That, you know, and of course we assist them in the promotion of the album and stuff like that. And so that is what has been the great thing for us. You know, it's enabled us to go as far as we have, and, you know, and they do not mess with the management of the band. We are still self-managed, and if all the record bands that are on, if they have their own management or have our management companies, the record label doesn't mess with the management of the band, so we do our own touring, our own booking, going to festivals. All that stuff is done still with us, with the support of, you know, Pure Steel, that sort of thing. So, you know, they sponsor us and that sort of thing, but it's, you know, they back us as much as they can, and it's been nothing but just a real good thing for us. And so that's my opinion. I mean, you know, some bands feel differently. They feel like they don't want to control someone else controlling, you know, how the records are distributed or promoted or manufactured, or, you know, I mean, there is that sort of thing. You know, they make the choices, you know, is it going to be vinyl or is it going to be not vinyl? They make that decision, you know, rather than, you know, a band. But it's, in the end, it's their financial part. They're the ones that are actually paying for the distribution, us, that network between Pure Steel, Soul Food Distributor, and Orchard Sony, which is the digital distributor. So all those things are done by them, and so we allow them to do their job, and we do our job, which is be a metal band. So that's so. So then it gets to a point of about the what and the when about music. So let's start with you about what got you into music, what bands influenced you, when, and all that.
I've been playing drums since I was 7 years old. My father had played in several bands and projects back in the day, and always played drums with him, everything, when I was a kid, and then just took it from there, playing with friends and stuff that I had met, and always wanted to practice and get better. Always listened to all the heavy stuff on the radio, from Ozzy and Rob Zombie, and I always liked Mudvayne, and started getting into more technical drumming stuff, like Gene Hoglan stuff, Death, and Fear Factory, a bunch of melodic stuff from Europe, Children of Bodom. There's just so many. A bunch of power metal stuff, Halloween, Iron Maiden, all sorts of stuff like that. Definitely all influenced my style, and they made it how I play for sure. All those people influenced me.
Ed?
What got me into music was, believe it or not, the day Elvis died.
Really?
Yeah, I was 4, and I remember it clear as day. I didn't even know what death really meant, really, at 4 years old, you know. I just saw people around me flipping out. it was all over the TV and everything, and they would show footage of him. You know, he was up there with the guitar and he's dancing and singing, and you know, there's a lot of happiness being spread, is what it looked. So I was just always drawn to that, you know. And then you know, I went from Elvis, and then I became a Buddy Holly fan. And that was really weird. That was way before my time, I know.
No, that's
then,
interesting. Yeah.
You know, the Beatles and stuff. You know, I was big Beatles, Elvis, and Buddy Holly. Those were like the big three for me. You know, and then when I was probably about 6, it was like 78, 79, I got the first Kiss record. And, you know, I knew there was something different with it. You know, it was harder, it was heavier, it felt different, you know? And then it wasn't until like, I was probably like 11, I became a guitar player. And at that time, you know, metal was just coming out. It was very new. And I saw the Looks to Kill video on MTV. And I was just sucked in. You know, I knew that was what I wanted to do. You know, and then I came across stuff like, you know, Randy Rhoads. You know, I started becoming exposed to, you know, a lot of really good musicianship. You know, at an 11-year-old level, you know, you can't really understand it, but you know there was something there. You know, and yeah, I was really late getting on the metal train. You know, the real metals, like when thrash came out and stuff like that. I was never really a thrash fan. You know, bands like that I love today, you know, like Exodus and Overkill and stuff. I was very late getting on that stuff. And, you know, because I like bands like Dokken and Rat and stuff like that back then. And this kid at school asked me, you know, why don't I play what he called real metal? You know, he's like, well, why don't you play real metal, you know? And I told him, and honestly, I was like, I've never heard anything, you know, from a metal band that had good musicianship in it, you know. And he came to school the next day and gave me the
showed you the way.
Yeah, he gave me Flotsam and Jetsam, Doomsday
there you
for Deceiver.
Go. Okay.
And I couldn't believe it. You know, I didn't know you could play like that. I mean, I had no idea that that's what metal was, you know. And I was just sucked in immediately. And it was like, I think like a month later, that's when Mystic was looking for a guitar player. And they were playing that same kind of music, you know. I was like 15 at the time, I believe, when that happened. And yeah, that's when I got into the Cleveland music scene, and I loved meeting you and a bunch of other people, you know, like the dudes from Destructor. You know, I remember seeing them on Channel 5 News.
Yeah.
In 1985, when I was like 12, you know. And yeah, that's what did it for me. You know, that's what did it for me.
Well, I started very young. My first band, I was 10 years old, playing drums. Except I wasn't playing rock. I was, you know, I got in, I'm Puerto Rican, born in Puerto Rico, come home, and my mom said I right away was learning how to play drums myself, because I loved rock music right away while everyone else around me was listening to rock music. And my mom asked, hey, do you want to play drums for my friend's band? And I went and played drums with them. And even then, while I was playing drums, they asked me to sing background, and I sang background, and right away it was like, oh my God, that kid has a voice like an angel. And I knew that I wanted to sing, and so I just started singing with, you know, bands, and it just took that progression from, you know, that style of music into some rock bands, playing drums and singing, that kind of thing. And eventually I just decided, you know what, I'm going to make the switch while I was going into college to not play drums anymore and actually really try to be a vocalist. And when I entered college as a music major, studying opera, and I was singing classical opera and all those things, and love Luciano Pavarotti and that sort of stuff. And so even though I was listening to progressive music, I mean, when I was 16, and metal, I mean, that 2112 from Rush changed my life, because it literally went from listening to like different, what rock could be, to what could be. It expanded my horizon to, okay, and into metal, and the Judas Priest and AC/DC and all this different stuff. You know, it all became ingrained in the way I began to sing. And so I just made that change, and it's just, I guess that goes to really to, you're listening to the Ronnie James Dio and Bruce Dickinson, and you're my Young, Dennis DeYoung of Styx, and all, listening to these different singers that, and as I got more progressive into it, John Patrick McDonald of Crimson Glory, and just all these incredible singers that were just, took my direction, as I have this naturally high voice. I'm a natural tenor. And so I do not sing in falsetto. I actually, when you hear these high notes, I'm actually singing in full voice. So I actually bring it down to sing metal, and then just allow my voice to go when I sing high notes. So that brings me around to the epic fail portion of this, and which brings me around to my epic fail when I actually joined a metal band, is because I was at a party and was singing, and the person there says, "Hey, have you ever heard of Judas Priest?" And I said, "Judas Priest," and I did "Victim of Changes," and a cappella, and they were like, "Oh my God, you got to sing for us." And so I'm in this band that ended up being called Striker, and singing for Striker. And so that was my first band where I wasn't a player, a drummer, I was just a singer. And that first show, I showed up dressed like an opera singer, because that's the way I dressed in everything I was doing at the point. I was singing opera in college, that's what I was doing. So I dressed, the black slacks, the white shirt, dress shoes, that whole bit, and actually sang the first song like imagine me standing at a piano singing like an opera singer. They were like, "Oh, okay, Ron, you need to, And so then the next show I started flying around like an idiot, but that was my epic fail. And we go to...
my worst fail on stage, probably, I think what it was, like 2017 or 2018 at the Pure Steel Record Festival. And I was playing with Tall Paul and James Rivera's band he's from Hellstar, and shout out Keith. And we were backing up them coming in to play a show, and my Velcro on my pedals was like super slippery against the stage, and my pedals kept walking away from me, and I ended up having to play basically the whole show just with one pedal, switch everything from double bass to just single bass, and it worked out and stuff, but it's definitely interesting to have to do on the fly there.
That's fun.
That's what I want.
And your epic fail is epic.
Oh, well, I got many. I got many.
But I would say the heart attack shows.
Yeah, the heart attack one, I had a heart attack. That was my first show back in 17 years. That was when I came back from my long break from the music scene. And I didn't know I was having a heart attack. I actually thought that I was out of shape, and it was my nerves, and I thought that there was a lot of factors that I thought what it was. But man, I felt so horrible. I remember after the show, I went from the stage right to my car, and I never really left my car, actually. And I ended up going to the hospital later on that night, and they told me, yeah, I was having a heart attack, and they measured the damage, and they're like, this didn't happen 5 hours ago. And I remember, I felt like this last week. That was actually my second one. But yeah, that's Cleveland metal folklore now.
Yeah.
I finished the show.
I was there. I was in the audience.
Yeah.
Watching, and the whole time he's like shredding, and he's having a heart attack. It's just trooper, right? Kept on playing.
I do have a really funny fail story. It was my very first show that I ever did, and I was all scared and everything, and frozen, and I broke a string, and I kind of like panicked and didn't know what to do. I had another guitar behind me. I grabbed it real fast. All this is in the middle of the song and shit, and The guitar was out of tune. It was just a horrible show. It was my first one. And then the funny thing is many years later, because it was on VHS too. Mm-hmm. Many years later, when I was in Darkseed, we used to play at this place called the Hot Rock Cafe, and somebody, I don't even know who it was, somebody had a copy of this tape, brought it to the bar, brought it to the show, and it was actually playing on the huge.
That's even better than the actual event.
Oh, it was a good one. It was a good one.
Well, then it goes to what the current scene is like. I mean, it's really been interesting. You know, there are a lot of great bands. I mean, Cleveland has always had this amazing metal scene, and we're so proud to be part of it. And, you know, there's just, you know, obviously I've signed several bands here from the area. And, you know, and the history of Cleveland metal has gone back, you know, back to the golden age of when I first started, you know, with bands like Breaker and Destructor and hardcore bands like the Spud Monsters. And it's just, you know, going and you can't speak Cleveland metal without mentioning bands like Mushroom Head and Chimera. And, you know, we're proud to be part of that legacy, and you know, there are other bands following behind us, so we're just gonna keep bringing Cleveland metal to the world is what we're trying to do. And so we're being, you know, and I guess that brings us to the final little bit there about our future. And of course we're excited and working on already music for the next album, and doing tons of shows all over America right now, and for the new album, including, and we're going to the Mega Metal Festival in Honduras later this year. We'll be in Europe and Germany. He's very happy to go back to Germany. Of course, I've gone several times there to Europe. Can't wait to play all the different places. We'll be at the Full Metal Festival next March there in Germany. There's so many places that we want to go to, so many fans that we have, different parts of the world, and we're just going to try to go to as many places as we can and see as many people as we can, and to spread our music and you know, bring, you know, our music to everybody. And so definitely look for us on the sky, look for us to be coming to your town, to your area, and support us. Look at the new album, check out the new album, Prelude to Madness. Pick up the other two, Doppelganger and Fire Breather, because we still perform songs from all three albums. So we love to bring up the you know, that music from the past, and we give a different take to them and have some fun with them. And so just wait, and you see us all soon. So I say goodbye. Let's get it on Juan Ricardo,
Joe Martin,
Ed Miller,
from the band Sunless Sky. Thanks again to everyone there. Antichrist Magazine, you guys rock. And we'll see everybody. We'll see you all soon.